Thank you, Erica. Thank you, everyone who's come out over the last between today and yesterday. Um, we have and PNC. Thank you, Jeff. What a beautiful couple days here in Chicago. Um, it's my honor to do this next fireside chat with the Honorable Treasurer Laura Montoya of the great state of New Mexico. She oversees 18 billion with a B in assets. She serves on 13 boards, councils, and commissions, managing about $160 billion in assets. And she's really has a lot of these conversations around fiscal equity and private finance and making bold decisions and leadership for capital and how capital works in our community. So please, let's give a warm Angeles Chicago welcome to the treasurer of the great state of New Mexico, the Honorable Laura Montoya. Que viva. There we go. Excellent. Well, treasurer. Yeah, there's some bunch of New Mexicans in the house. Um, so welcome to Chicago. How's been your day or so? All right. Beautiful. Excellent.
Beautiful. I brought you guys good weather.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. So always like to start out. Tell our audience and those online. Tell us about you, your story.
Sure. Well, buenos dias, Yate, Guatsiopa. I am from northern New Mexico, and I am very happy to be here with all of you beautiful people. I don't get to see the amount of diversity and color in my role very much, and so this is a really nice pleasure for me to be here with you this morning. I was the oldest of three. My mom and dad have been married for 49 years. 50 will be next year. My mother is a retiree in the educational system. She started off late because she was raising the three of us. I got homemade frijoles every other day and fresh homemade tortillas almost every day. I look at it now and I'm like, man, my mom was the best, most amazing rock star. I had no idea we were poor because all of our friends and our classmates would come to my house to eat fresh tortillas all the time. My dad retired from the Department of Transportation and is a city councilor. I started my career very early in government and public policy. I have a tia who has always been engaged in politics, and so I knew pretty early on that public service was the direction that I wanted to go in because I felt that I could make a lot of movement just by being a part of it. And so that started off my career at the legislature while I was working on my master's degree, and I fell in love with public policy. That was my first love. And later, I listened all the time. I heard what legislators were debating and their personal stories on the floor of the House and the Senate, and I'm one of the few people that has worked both on the House and the Senate floor. Years later, that helped me because I was the secretary at the state treasurer's office after someone ended up going to prison. I learned a lot from that experience. So I was with the appointee named Treasurer Douglas Minch Brown. He's still a very good mentor of mine. And the election happened, and Treasurer James B. Lewis, who was the first and last African-American statewide elected official, was elected for the second go-round in his career. And so both of them have mentored me throughout my career, and 20-some years later, I'm no longer the secretary. I am the treasurer in the state treasurer's office.
Applause for that. That's amazing. By the way, the first Latina treasurer nationwide as well. So
Yes,
kudos to
and
that.
So I'm the first female in New Mexico to be a state treasurer, and I'm the first elected Latina state treasurer in our country's history.
Give it up for that. Give it up for that.
Pura vida.
So, I think all of us have a high level idea of what the role of a treasurer is, but maybe can just to level set, explain to the audience the role of the treasurer.
Yeah. So I oversee almost 20 billion. We've brought it up to about 4 billion in the last 3.5 years that I've been there. I wish I could say it was all me, but it's my staff and the market. I oversee 160 billion. I'm on 13 boards, councils, and commissions. The constitutional duties are to protect, collect, invest, distribute, and report. But I also have some other things that I'm really working on that I'm very passionate about that help me to want to do the job 16, 18 hours a day. So we'll go into those a little bit later. But I think whatever role you're in, whatever impact you're trying to make, it's critical that you're really thinking about not what you want to be, but what do you want to leave behind, and what's the value in what you're contributing to whatever that is, whatever team that is, whatever you did in your career. How are you going to leave it better than what you started it off with?
And so, New Mexico, just a show of hands, how many people have been to New Mexico? Wow, that's a lot more than I would have thought. That's pretty cool.
We're the hidden treasure.
I see that. I see that. Well, so we were chatting and we were talking about just some really cool, interesting data points about New Mexico. My grandfather, by the way, 90 years old, lives in a town called Rio Rancho, New Mexico. And that is another story for another day of how a guy from Caguas, Puerto Rico, works his way all the way through various states and ends up in his 90s in Rio Rancho. But that's a story for another day. Treasurer, if you could share some really cool, interesting data points about the great state of New Mexico.
Yes. So I live in Rio Rancho, which is the fastest growing city in the state of New Mexico. It's between Santa Fe and Albuquerque. And the cool things about us that you might not know if you ever visited is the diversity that we have in our state is tremendous. We are very good about supporting and respecting red chili and green chili, chicken enchiladas and beef enchiladas. The diversity of the North and the South is very different. In the North, you'll get all 4 seasons, sometimes in the same hour. In
Sounds
the
like
South,
Chicago.
the South is very deserty. And that also is like a different political spectrum on both sides of it. Sometimes we're considered purple. We're mestizo, so we have Native American, Spaniard, and Mexican as who we are. We're not cool with the whole immigration thing because we've been here. The border crossed us. We did not cross the border. We're blue from the top to the bottom, so we embrace diversity. We respect other people's cultures. We respect who they want to love. We respect what they do. We mind our business, basically. I think from the diversity standpoint, we have 23 pueblos, 19 pueblos, the Mescalero Apache, and then Dene, and I'm missing one, Jicaria Apache. So it's really important that in my county where your family lives, we have the most pueblos. And that's where I served as the Sandoval County Treasurer before I was elected as state treasurer. So we definitely embrace it. We have right now solar and wind that are being utilized in a very productive manner. We have one of the largest projects happening in a little small area in Torrance County called Corona, which is going to be the largest wind turbine energy in the Western Hemisphere. It's 550 miles of line, and the energy will be utilized for us to, for Arizona and for California.
Wow, and it's a big the energy and energy demand with all the data centers, all the tech. It's amazing. And then our mission at Angeles Investors is to leverage the power of Latino growth to find, fund, and fuel the best startups, ventures in America. And when you think about that mission that we have at Angeles, and you think about Latino growth and the power of Latino growth, right? What does that mean to you, and what would you like to share with our members with that?
I have so much to share with you. So I will say with New Mexico, we have some rough issues as well. We're number one in poverty, number one in crime. We've been pushing financial literacy as a graduation requirement. We'll get into that a little bit deeper. But on the positive, we have the second largest sovereign wealth fund in the country. We're at $63 billion. We're anticipated to be number one within the next 7 to 10 years. Right now, our public employees' retirement has almost $19 billion. Our educational retirement pension is almost at $19 billion. And then in my office, we are almost at $20 billion. So there's a lot of money movement, and I think this is a perfect time and opportunity to really figure out how do we align our culture and our values to be able to navigate the investment world so that we can live up to the idea of safety and better communities, healthier communities. So I want to get into a little bit about the immigrant and Latino economic numbers. And I think this is important for this group because sometimes when we live in our own silos, we forget how much value we bring to the table. And so I wanted to make sure and mention that undocumented immigrants are essential contributors to the economy. In 2023, undocumented immigrants households paid $89.8 billion in federal, state, and local taxes and held $299 billion in spending power. In total, immigrants, both legal and undocumented households, paid nearly $16.80 in every $100 of tax dollars collected, federal, state, and local, funding a wide range of social services that benefit all Americans. In New Mexico, immigrant workers and business owners generated $12 billion in economic output. Nationally in 2023, the immigrant spending power reached $1.7 trillion with their tax contributions nearing $652 billion. So I want to get into the Latino contributing to our economy. In New Mexico, the New Mexico Latino GDP, the gross domestic product, alone amounted to $49 billion. We only have 2.1 million people in our state, and we're the 5th largest state in the union. Nationally, Latino GDP reached $4.1 trillion, accounting for 30.6% of the country's GDP growth, despite only representing 19.5% of the U.S. population. Latino GDP equates to the 5th largest economy in the world. The U.S. Latino GDP growth rate surpassed the world's 10th largest, including China.
That's some great growth. That's we're going to leverage that Latino growth to find fun and fuel. So on the diversity side, it's important for you and in the Treasurer's Office in New Mexico. So when you think about diversity, equity, inclusion in the areas of fund management, also wealth creation, and how you're managing the funds and the investments there, what specific actions are you taking along the lines that you just mentioned?
Sure. I'm going to give you more data points. I'm a treasurer. I love money, and we're bringing sexy back to Treasury.
We're investors. We do too. We like getting more money, but that's, you know.
So I'm going to go back one quick moment because all of those numbers I just threw at you, I want them to stick. And the reason why I brought them up to you today is that I want you to recognize your power. And a lot of times we don't recognize the power that we do have. So, for example, I don't shop at Walmart anymore. I'm not playing with Target. I haven't drank Starbucks coffee since January 1st unless somebody bought it in one of these rooms. I'm very serious. I'm not even messing around with Home Depot right now. I am very serious that where we spend our money matters, and where we spend that money should be always with the value of who we are and what contribution we bring to this country.
That's the purchasing power. We've got $3 trillion, Latino community, $3 trillion in purchasing power.
Yes. And when you leverage it, that's when you can make significant change. So you guys are going to see something in the news probably today. Several of us decided to write a letter back to the SFOF, to BlackRock, to 19 other major fund managers to make it clear that we embrace diversity, that we actually mitigate risk by being able to embrace diversity. So I'm going to give you another number, because when people tell you otherwise, you need to have the data to prove otherwise. So the NAIC, which is called the National Association of Investment Companies, Diverse Private Equity Index significantly outperformed the benchmark Burgess median return, recording a net IRR of 17.23%, a net TVPI of 1.68, and DPI of 0.66, compared with the Burgess median performance of 11.58%, 1.37x, and 0.44 respectively. So if you're a visual person, let me just put it this way. 5% higher returns because they diversified. It is a proven fact that when you diversify your teams, whether it's your consultants, whether it's your outside teams or your direct teams, you are getting a higher return and you're mitigating more risk.
And then when you look at our portfolio at Angeles, we've invested about 25 companies or so. Our MOIC is roughly about a 1.92, and you look at IRR and how that performs. It kind of reinforces the point you made. When you in our conversations, you talked about something that's really important to you, is about kind of legacy, what you want to leave behind. What would you like to share with our members why that's so important to you and how you're thinking about your legacy outcomes and what you want to leave behind?
So I live in a world where it's in 4-year terms, and maybe all of you should live that way too. What I mean by that is I either worked for an elected official and we have 2 4-year terms, or I was the elected official and I have 2 4-year terms. And so everything takes a little bit more of a purpose-driven way of thinking and how you prioritize what that might be, and during the right timing and environment, what can really be sustainable and accomplished versus, your dreams that are still going to be maybe for a different day. So for me, education is a priority. Financial education is a priority. 2 years ago when we started this drive, there was only so many states that had it. Now we have 3 times more states who have financial literacy as a graduation requirement. New Mexico, unfortunately, only met halfway through with a local option. We lost by 1 vote. And so we went all over New Mexico. We worked with another group called Think New Mexico, talked to superintendents, talked to teachers, talked to school boards, talked to students to show them the importance of having financial education. If you look back at your own career, some of the dumb mistakes you made could have been prevented or avoided if somebody would have taught you otherwise. The other aspect is a lot of us grew up with no money. We didn't have a savings account. I mean, we could barely afford to make ends meet. And back then, you could at least write a check on Wednesday and hope nobody got it till Friday. So it worked out just fine. I know you all know. Now you can't do that. So for me, it's really important that our children and our youth are being able to be uplifted and have all of the tools in their toolbox to be able to perform and to make good choices for themselves and their families to build generational wealth. So it sounds very simple. It's been very challenging. We now have 49% of our school districts with high school graduation requirements, including financial literacy. We're halfway there in 1 year, a year and a half.
That's a social media moment. For those who took that, put that out there.
Yes, and you could see a lot of this information on our social media. We're on TikTok and whatever else Bishop puts us on. But a lot of the data, a lot of the information is on there because we're having to hold the federal administration accountable. The other aspect that's come up recently outside of the letter we just wrote today to confirm how we feel about how we invest and having the sacredness and the separation of making those decisions informed is the Fed fund rate, making sure that data is independent of politics, because that data is what we make decisions on what we're going to do with the pension fund, with the sovereign wealth fund, et cetera. And so trying to fire people or push them or bully them or persuade them otherwise is not the right way to have Chairman Powell work. And treasurers have the responsibility to protect that. And so we're going to also be coming out very publicly about the idea that it is important to keep our elected offices and those offices that are constitutionally required a certain duty to be solvent and to be protected and to be independent, because there's so many of us that depend on those numbers and that data and whether or not rates go up or go down for it to be played with because of politics.
Well, today the markets are like, way up and whatever, and everybody's like their eyes on the Fed and what's going on. So that is important. I was just also thinking about kind of the rice and beans thing and the frijoles thing. It was like rice, beans, chicken. Rice, beans, and then you get a vegetarian day, rice, beans, plantains, it's like, so we got a little bit of time here. Just, Treasurer, is there any final words or parting thoughts you'd like to share with our members before we break for lunch?
I do. I want to talk to you a little bit about education because this sort of astonished me when we were talking about it recently. So there's 140 trillion managed by investment account officers. And I don't think we're paying attention enough because there's only 484 accredited financial, economic, and financial departments, 75 universities globally that teach some type of investing. In New Mexico, we have 33 counties, 106 municipalities, 68 executive state agencies, universities, schools, banks. We all need people in the financial world. Right now, with our pension funds, I just told you they're almost 20 billion each, and then our sovereign wealth is 63. We can't find the staffing within our state at times to be able to help be portfolio managers and to invest that. And I think when we're talking about building wealth, when we're talking about building our families, it's really important that we're teaching our children that finances is not something that we should not talk about. It's just like culturally we didn't talk about sex for a long time. We still don't, unless you're listening to Salt and Pepper from back in the day when when I was growing up.
That's also a tweetable, Xable or whatever.
We need to start talking about finances. It's okay to ask, like, what are you making? What are you investing? Like, you need to make it more common. And it's important for us to motivate our children to be able to go into those fields and that they're smart enough to be able to do it. There's been a lot of Latinas, if you look it up on Google, how many of them were working for treasurers? And they were always the CFOs in the background. They've never been the forward facing, but we know how to make a dollar out of 15 cents. That's been, Latinos have in general, but my mom could make it and then build it and then have clothes extra to make for, my mom and dad really taught me the value of a dollar and what that meant for us. And it was about all of us being together. I cleaned houses, I babysat, and then I gave my mom the check that I got because I knew it was about the family. It wasn't about me by no means. And I think sometimes we're in our own silos trying to make it work. But if we work more together, the presenter before was talking about interrupters. I always talk about, like, if I'm holding David's hand and I'm holding your hand, if one of you is taking up space and not contributing to my life and bringing value, and I'm not bringing value into your life, I'm wasting this hand because I can't get to you because I only have these hands. And it's really important to look at and self-reflect. Who are the people you have around you the most? Are they inspiring you? Are they bringing you knowledge and growth? Are they toxic? Are they wasted energy or space? Like, you could still be cool with them, like, hey girl, I'm cool with you. But like, you're over there and I'm over here and I'll see you like at Sunday church. I want someone that's gonna make me think, that's gonna be smarter than me. If you don't have someone in your group that's smarter than you, there's a problem. If you have yes people around you all the time, especially in my field, but I know in your guys' field, that's a problem. There should be people that always are critically challenging your thought process to make you better than what you were yesterday. And I think that should be a goal for all of us. The other aspect for me on this educational side is I want my universities in my state to be the innovative university that has investing in it so that people from all over the world, including my own kids, can go to this university and then come and take care of the pension that my parents worked so hard to help build so that they could have something to return. When we're talking about pension funds, you're talking about firefighters, state employees, city employees. We should not be investing in things or funds that negatively impact the very people that did their blood, sweat, and tears to put that money in there for themselves, or who are going to be negatively impacted by getting kicked out of the houses and the homes and the communities that they fought so hard to build for all of us. Those are things I'm thinking about. When we're investing, it should be an impact on somebody, on something, and that's something that incorporates your own personal values. And I think sometimes we forget about that because we want net IRR, right? We want return. But at the end of the day, how much return are you really getting? When you look at the real bottom line, what did you gain? What was resulted from it? If we've had the mindset, and this is very, very big, but if we had the mindset of only investing in oil and gas in New Mexico, we would be screwed. That's not the way you diversify, right? We've all been told not to white people taught me early on, you need to diversify your portfolio. But now all of a sudden, diversity has become such a bad word. That's why I use it all the time, because I want people to start thinking there's nothing wrong with our diversity. The diversity of who we are, even as Latino communities, is beautiful. I mean, I lived in Costa Rica for a year. I was a Rotary scholar. I didn't know maduros, plantains before, because that's not something we always ate. I didn't eat black beans and rice. I ate frijoles. Well, frijoles like brown, like pinto frijoles. Like
We ate them both.
Like, that was the only thing we
We
knew.
diversified. We had pintos, we had, gandules, we had all kinds of stuff, you know.
Yes. You learn how to make some extra flavor and spice into your life. And so I think it's really important that we're being very cognizant of where we're putting our money and what we're spending it on, and that we're leaving things better than what we started them out with, because we are all on the backs of others that helped us to get to this room and helped us to get to the successes that we've had throughout our careers. And I think that is the most important focal point for us to all be attentive to in the decisions that we make.
Well, thank you, Treasurer. And I have one question for the audience before we part. Who's down for host having a reception like this in New Mexico? Show of hands. There we go. Thank you. Let's give a warm round of applause for the Treasurer of New Mexico, Laura Montoya. Thank you.
I have one thing I want to tell you guys about, because I forgot to tell you this, and you'll love it because it's about compound interest. So there's something called baby bonds. Who's familiar with baby bonds? A little bit? So the 529 plan, anyone familiar with 529? So 529 plan is the way that people who have money can get into a 529 and put money towards their kids' education, et cetera. A government-funded baby bond is something that we're trying to get in New Mexico. So to give you an example, let's pretend after today the bill got passed and all of you guys had babies. I'm proposing $7,000 for every baby born in New Mexico that will be invested into the State Investment Council. Within 18 years, that $7,000 turns into $25,000 for them to utilize. If they don't utilize it for whatever reason, maybe their parents can afford it, maybe they got scholarships, maybe they wanted to go into the trades and it costs less, whatever the case may be. At the age of 35, it turns into about $75,000. And if they still didn't use it and they want to use it for their retirement, they can then put it in the retirement. It turns up to about $400,000 to $700,000. That's generational wealth. And so for those of you who have grandbabies that can do a 529 or something similar, that's great. But for those that couldn't or weren't able to, this is a perfect way to build up your communities and build up your families, and for governments to say, hey, I got you. You pay your property taxes, you pay your gross receipts tax, you pay every other tax we make you pay. We're giving back to your family. Can you imagine when you had your child, whether it was a single mom or a young family, to be able to say that government actually put forth a little bit of an investment in your child? And in doing so, less incarceration, less drugs, less out-migration. State of Connecticut is already doing this. They're in their third year. I'm hoping New Mexico's not last on this list, but one of the first. But this is something for all of you to take back to your states, because 26 states are looking at this. 3 times more are looking at financial literacy. Treasurers are trying to bring not only sexy back, but trying to bring the impact of what the finances and the foundation of having a financial structure is to benefit communities and make them healthier, stronger, and more vibrant. So just think about that for me. Thank you.
Round of applause for the Treasurer.